Hi, this is Laura, and I'd like to talk with you today about Asperger syndrome and stress at work. Stress at work is something that I know all too well, and I'd like to talk to you about the different components that create stress and some strategies to deal with it that sometimes work and sometimes don't, but it's the best that I know how to share. So this will help other people to understand what people with Asperger syndrome go through at work. To begin with, many of us have related conditions such as ADD or ADHD, sensory integration disorder, anxiety, it's a big one, and social overwhelm, difficulties with organization because of poor executive functioning. These are all components that not everyone has, but some people do have, and some have a combination. And this really complicates the experience of working. And I'm going to go through part by part, and hopefully you can relate to some components of this. The first one is ADD, and that involves really having trouble with concentration at work, whereas at home when you're working on a hobby, you may have very good concentration. But if you're really scattered and distracted, it's very difficult to stay focused. Beyond ADD, many of us have trouble with sensory integration disorder. That means that bright lights, especially fluorescent lights, bother us. Loud noises are very difficult. And having a lot of people talking at once is overwhelming and will completely mess up concentration and can even lead to headaches. So this is a component very often of Asperger syndrome. Another component is anxiety, which I mentioned before. Anxiety can result from not understanding social situations, from the overwhelm of the sensory environment, from being distracted constantly from tasks and worried about what the supervisor will think, and many other circumstances. And sometimes the anxiety makes concentration even worse. Another problem many of us have is poor executive functioning, which means planning and organizing. So we have a tough time with this, and we can get very scattered and not know how to prioritize. And even working with a job coach or working closely with a supervisor that understands your disability, it can feel humiliating to need so much help with things that your coworkers can do fairly easily. So this adds to additional stress at work. And that's why so many of us only work part-time or don't work at all. It's because there's so many factors that influence our work performance. Another complicating factor for many of us is nonverbal learning disability, and actually a high percentage of people with Asperger syndrome suffer from it and don't realize it. It has to do with confusion in your surroundings, disorientation, easily getting lost, and that sort of thing. And if you're having trouble remembering where things are in your building, that can be tough. I remember in school, I got lost all the time, and when I've worked with autistic children, they often are wandering around the school building, not knowing where their class is. So this can also really make things difficult. I made 2 videos on the subject recently to help people understand nonverbal learning disability. And I feel like it's important that people are aware and educated about the subject because it influences so many of us so much. Right now I work a part-time job, and it's tending to stress me out quite a bit. In the beginning it didn't because I had a lighter workload, and then when it got more complicated, it's been very, very hard. And I'm getting through it, and my boss says I'm doing a good job, but it's taking me longer than the average person to get things done. And my coworkers don't completely understand, but I'm getting special accommodations because I do have a job coach and a recognized disability, and they're all aware of it. So I only have one friend that works full-time, and she's chronically stressed, and the rest of my friends are on SSDI. I'm also on SSDI in addition to my part-time job because it's like a full-time job for me. It really is enough. Another problem that Asperger syndrome is best known for is social difficulties. For one thing, we're constantly trying to interpret what other people mean and what they really think, because we can't read facial expressions that well for the most part. Some can, some can't. And the nuances of social situations we don't get. We don't read between the lines. We aren't aware when people are angry sometimes. And it's hard to follow complicated conversations where many people are talking at one time, because we're trying to process one sentence and the next sentence comes up and we're worried about our own response. And this can be taxing when most people find social relationships to be very relaxing at work. I feel like video blogs are an outstanding idea because people can get support for their various conditions by hearing from other people who have been through the same thing and learning what they do. And I'm not the only one making these videos. There's many, many more. And so I gathered them all together and kind of cataloged them like a dictionary or encyclopedia on supportnetworktv.com. And so even though it's a simple website basically made, I hope people will find comfort and support there, especially for issues that create a lot of stress. And this is a community service. It's not for profit. It's just because I wanted to reach out and help other people to receive the support that I have through video blogs. Overall, I enjoy my work a lot, and it's really fun to feel like I'm contributing something and active and doing something to really show my abilities. But I do suffer from every condition that I just mentioned, from ADD to sensory integration disorder to nonverbal learning disability to sexual difficulties. And so it can be overwhelming, and I come home many, many days and just take a long nap, even 2 hours, to refresh myself and clear my head. And even yesterday was a really tough day for me, and so I thought about making this video to relieve some stress and also to let other people know why people with Asperger syndrome do get stressed at work. Some accommodations that people with Asperger syndrome often need are structure, support, time alone to concentrate, sometimes a little bit longer of a break or more breaks, understanding from coworkers if possible, and sometimes we're just very quiet in conversation because we're not sure how to break in or what to say. And other times we say inappropriate things which we worry about to no end afterward. So we need an environment that is quiet and understanding of our needs if possible. Many people don't reveal it because they're afraid that they won't get the job to begin with, but I did, and it's worked for me. I want to encourage everyone that has Asperger syndrome to work if you can handle it, because it's very rewarding. It may be a little harder for us, but it's still very rewarding. And you can handle stress by making the most of your time away from work. Immerse yourself in hobbies that you love and enjoy. Spend time with your friends. All my friends have Asperger syndrome except for one. And they understand me, and it just means so much to me. And really let yourself relax. Now, sometimes things like deep breathing don't work. You can try it. It might work for you. And, tensing of your body and relaxing it, imagining a peaceful place. You can try these things, but they may not always work. And sometimes medication is necessary to control the stress. In summary, as I mentioned before, don't give up. If you have a dream, if you really want to work and make a contribution to society, you can do it. Just make sure that you have the appropriate supports in place. Because I work part-time, I have a nice place to live, I have a pet, I have a much greater budget to do things that I enjoy, and it's really worthwhile. And don't worry so much about your disability, but try to focus on your strengths. And understand the stress at work, have compassion for yourself, and other people hopefully will also. It's very important to remember that you are an important contributing member of society, whether you work or not.